Kayla thought she was stepping into a life of luxury, but behind the glittering lights of Dubai lay a nightmare she never saw coming. It's called the Dubai Porta Potty. Betrayed, broken, and trapped in a world of unimaginable horror, she would learn the hard way that not everything that glitters is gold. This is the chilling story of dreams turned into nightmares, and the price some pay for believing in easy wealth. Before we proceed, do not forget to subscribe, like, share, and click on the notification bell for update on new, interesting videos. The morning sun struggled to peek through the rusty aluminum sheets that made up the roof of Kayla's family home. Inside the small, cramped room, the air was thick with the scent of kerosene from the lantern they had used the night before. Kayla had woken up before dawn, as usual, to prepare for the day ahead. She swept the tiny space they shared, fetched water from the nearby community borehole, and helped her mother set up her small roadside stall, where she sold second-hand clothes and cheap household items. Her father, a man in his early 50s, was already dressed in his faded blue uniform, ready for his daily job as a gateman in one of the city's commercial buildings. His face was lined with years of struggle, his hands rough from hard labor, yet his eyes held a certain resilience. Kayla was the eldest of 3 siblings, and at just 21, she had already learned the weight of responsibility. Life had never been easy for them. At one point, both her younger siblings had to drop out of school because their parents could no longer afford the fees. She had taken a small job at a neighborhood restaurant, where she washed plates and cleaned tables for little pay, just enough to bring home something to add to the family's meager earnings. One evening, as she made her way home after a long shift, the sky was painted in hues of orange and deep purple. The street was buzzing with the usual activities, vendors shouting prices, children running barefoot, and tired workers heading home. Just as she turned into a narrow alley leading to her house, she heard someone call her name. "Kayla?" She turned around and saw a face she hadn't seen in years. It was Bissy. Bissy had changed. The last time Kayla saw her was in their teenage years when they used to fetch water together from the communal tap. But the girl who now stood before her was a different person entirely. Her skin glowed under the streetlights, her hair was styled in a sleek wig that cascaded down her back, and her dress was the kind Kayla had only seen on television, fitted, elegant, and obviously expensive. She wore makeup that highlighted her high cheekbones and full lips, and when she smiled, a flash of gold shone from one of her teeth. "Bissy?" Kayla's voice was laced with surprise and admiration. "Yes, it's me." Bissy laughed, stepping closer. "It's been years, my friend." Kayla felt a sudden rush of mixed emotions, joy, curiosity, and something else she couldn't quite place. She glanced at the car parked a few feet away, a sleek black Mercedes, its polished body gleaming under the dim street lights. "You look different," Kayla said, her voice barely above a whisper. Bissy chuckled, flipping her hair over her shoulder. "Different in a good way, I hope." Kayla nodded, unable to hide the admiration in her eyes. Bissy had always been beautiful, but now there was something about her that made her stand out even more. She exuded confidence, the kind that made people turn their heads. Other young women passing by stole glances at Bissy, some whispering amongst themselves. It was clear Bissy had become someone they all looked up to. She wasn't just another girl from the neighborhood. She was a symbol of success. "I've been away for some time," Bissy continued. "Life took me places, but I'm back for a bit. And you? What have you been up to?" Kayla hesitated before responding. What had she been up to? Struggling? fighting to keep her family afloat? Living paycheck to paycheck? She suddenly felt small standing in front of Bissy, who radiated wealth and ease. "Oh, just life," she said, forcing a smile. "Trying to make ends meet." Bissy studied her for a moment before nodding. "I understand," she said softly. "Things have been tough, right?" Kayla nodded. She didn't need to explain. Bissy had once lived in the same reality. Bissy suddenly brightened. "Let's not talk about that here. Why don't we catch up properly? Come to my place. We have a lot to talk about." Kayla hesitated. A part of her wanted to go, wanted to see the kind of life Bissy now lived. Another part of her, the cautious side, warned her against it. But curiosity won. "All right," she agreed. As they walked toward Bissy's car, Kayla felt an odd sense of anticipation. A door was opening before her, a door that led to a world she had only ever dreamed of. She had no idea that stepping through that door would change the course of her life forever. Kayla's heart pounded as she stepped into Bissy's car. The seats were smooth leather, and the air smelled like expensive perfume. Bissy drove effortlessly, weaving through traffic with the confidence of someone who belonged in this world. Kayla, on the other hand, kept glancing at the window, taking in the city lights, the tall buildings, and the luxury she had only seen from afar. Soon, they arrived at an estate, the kind Kayla had only heard about. The security gates opened automatically, and Bissy drove in without hesitation. The houses inside were magnificent, huge buildings with glass windows, perfectly trimmed lawns, and luxury cars parked in front. Kayla swallowed hard. This was a different world. Bissy's apartment was breathtaking. The living room alone was bigger than Kayla's entire house. The furniture was sleek and modern. A chandelier hung above, and soft jazz played in the background. A tray of fruits, chocolates, and drinks was placed on a glass table, making the place feel like a five-star hotel. "Make yourself comfortable," Bissy said, kicking off her high heels and walking towards the kitchen. Kayla sat cautiously on the couch, afraid she might ruin something. "Bissy, is this really your house?" she finally asked, her voice filled with disbelief. Bissy laughed as she returned with 2 glasses of wine. "Yes, Kayla, and I have other houses too." Kayla's jaw dropped. "You mean you own this place? And other houses?" Bissy nodded. "Yes, and I drive different cars too. I can change them whenever I feel like it." Kayla was speechless. She thought of her tiny home, where 5 people struggled to fit. She thought of the nights she went to bed hungry, of the dreams she had buried because she knew they would never come true. "Bissy," she whispered, "please, you need to show me the way." Bissy smiled and handed Kayla a glass of wine. "Relax, my dear. First, let's enjoy this moment. Eat, drink, and take in everything. We have time to talk about your worries." Kayla hesitated, but eventually took a sip. The wine was smooth, the finest she had ever tasted. Bissy turned on the TV, playing soft music as they ate and talked about old times. But Kayla's mind was racing. She wanted to know how Bissy got here. What did she do to afford this life? As the night deepened, Bissy finally said, "Kayla, I have something to tell you, but you must be ready to listen." Kayla sat up, her heart thudding. "I'm listening." Bissy leaned closer and whispered, "What if I told you that in 3 months you could make more money than you ever dreamed of?" Kayla's eyes widened. "How?" Bissy smiled. "Let's take it one step at a time." And just like that, Kayla's journey into the unknown had begun. Bissy leaned forward, her eyes fixed on Kayla. "I know you've struggled for a long time. You want a better life, don't you?" she asked, swirling the wine in her glass. Kayla nodded quickly. "Yes, Bissy, more than anything. I just want my family to be comfortable. I don't want to see my siblings out of school or my parents suffering anymore." Bissy sighed, tapping her long, manicured fingers on the edge of the glass table. "Then you have to be ready to do what it takes. The world is not fair, Kayla. People like us, we don't get opportunities handed to us. We have to grab them." Kayla's heart pounded. "I'll do anything," she said, the words coming out before she even thought about them. Bissy smiled, her eyes glinting with something Kayla couldn't quite read. "Good, because I have an opportunity for you. It's not easy, but if you do this, you'll make more money than you ever imagined." Kayla swallowed hard. "What kind of opportunity?" Bissy leaned back, crossing her legs. "I work in Dubai. I travel often because there are high-paying jobs there. Jobs that can change lives overnight. But they require sacrifice." Kayla's hands trembled slightly as she placed her glass down. "Sacrifice? What do you mean?" Bissy let out a soft laugh. "Nothing crazy. Just trust me. You'll need a passport first." "Have you ever traveled before?" Kayla shook her head. "I don't even have a passport." Bissy nodded, as if she had expected that. "That's not a problem. I'll help you get one. Once that's sorted, I'll process your visa. You'll come with me to Dubai, and you'll start making real money. I promise you, Kayla, you'll never have to struggle again." Kayla's mind raced. Was this really happening? Could her life actually change just like that? She thought about her parents, about her siblings who had to stay home while other children went to school. She had prayed for a miracle, and now it seemed like one was knocking at her door. Bissy leaned in closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "But once you say yes, there's no turning back." Kayla's breath caught in her throat. A warning flashed through her mind, but she pushed it aside. She was tired of being poor, tired of watching her family suffer. "Okay, Bissy," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I trust you. I'll do whatever it takes." Bissy grinned, lifting her glass. "To new beginnings." Kayla clinked her glass against Bissy's, sealing a fate she didn't yet understand. And just like that, she had taken her first step into a world she didn't fully understand, one that would change her life forever. Kayla's excitement built with each passing day, yet a lingering doubt gnawed at her. She saw it in the way her mother lingered in the doorway when she packed her bags, the quiet sadness in her father's eyes, the hesitant way her younger siblings asked when she would return. But she ignored it. This was her chance, her golden opportunity, and she wouldn't let fear hold her back. The night before she left, her mother sat her down, her weathered hands trembling as she cupped Kayla's face. "Daughter, promise me one thing," she whispered. "If something doesn't feel right, come home." Kayla forced a smile. "Mama, I'll be fine. Bissy has everything planned out." Her mother's eyes remained clouded with worry. Sometimes, the biggest traps are the ones that look the most beautiful. Kayla swallowed but nodded, hugging her mother tightly. She pushed the warning to the back of her mind. The next morning, she boarded the flight with Bissy, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. The plane ride was surreal, her first time above the clouds. Bissy, ever composed, chatted easily with other passengers, sipping champagne like she had done this 1,000 times. Kayla, on the other hand, fidgeted with her seatbelt, glancing nervously at the world outside. When they landed in Dubai, the first thing that struck her was the overwhelming luxury. Everything sparkled. The roads, the skyscrapers, even the air smelled expensive. Bissy's apartment was like something out of a dream. "Welcome to your new life," Bissy said, dropping her designer bag by the door. "You'll get used to it." Kayla ran her fingers over the velvet couch, taking in the chandelier hanging from the ceiling. For a moment, all her worries melted away. But by the third day, something felt off. Bissy avoided her questions about work, always brushing her off with, "Enjoy yourself first." Then, one evening, Bissy walked into the living room dressed in an expensive gown. "Tonight, you'll meet some important people," she said casually. "It's your first job." Kayla frowned. "Job? What kind of job?" Bissy's smile was tight. "You'll see." A cold shiver crawled up Kayla's spine. She had taken a step onto a path where turning back might not be so easy. Kayla's heart pounded as she stood in front of the full-length mirror in Bissy's lavish bedroom. She barely recognized herself. The silk dress clung to her body in a way that made her uncomfortable. The makeup was heavier than anything she had ever worn, and the high heels felt unnatural beneath her feet. "Bissy, I don't know about this," she murmured, shifting uncomfortably. Bissy, lounging on the plush bed, sipped from a glass of wine. "Relax, Kayla. It's just dinner. You'll be meeting some important people." Kayla swallowed hard. Something about Bissy's tone made her stomach twist. "But you still haven't told me what kind of work I'll be doing." Bissy sighed dramatically and set her glass down. "Kayla, do you think wealth just falls from the sky? Do you think I got this life by selling handbags or running a small business? Number, it takes connections, sacrifice, and playing the game wisely." Kayla frowned. "What game?" Bissy stood and walked toward her, placing firm hands on her shoulders. "You said you wanted to change your life, right? That you'd do anything." Kayla nodded hesitantly. "Then tonight is your first step. These men are powerful, and they can open doors for you, but they expect something in return." Kayla's breath caught in her throat. "You mean—" Bissy's grip tightened. "Yes, Kayla, this is the reality. The same reality that made me who I am today." Kayla's world spun. Her knees felt weak. This wasn't what she had signed up for. But what choice did she have? The plane ticket had been bought by Bissy. She had no money of her own, no way to return home. She was trapped. A knock at the door made her jump. "It's time," Bissy said firmly. "Fix your face, smile, and don't embarrass me." Kayla turned back to the mirror, staring at the stranger looking back at her. She had walked into a dream, but it was quickly becoming a nightmare. And the worst part? She had no way out. Kayla sat on the edge of the luxurious king-sized bed in Bissy's apartment, gripping the sheets tightly. Her heart pounded in her chest, and her palms were sweaty. It had been days since she arrived in Dubai, and the excitement of a new beginning had faded into a chilling realization. She had no idea what she had gotten herself into. Bissy had been dodging her questions about the work she was supposed to do. Every time Kayla asked, Bissy would brush it off with a smile and tell her to enjoy herself. "Relax, my dear," she would say. "You deserve some fun after working so hard back home." But Kayla wasn't having fun. She felt trapped. Bissy's apartment was beautiful, more than she could have ever imagined, but it felt like a golden cage. She had no money, no connections, and no way to leave. Whenever she asked about going out alone, Bissy would dismiss the idea. Then, tonight happened. A few hours ago, Bissy had handed her an expensive dress, something Kayla would have never worn back home. It was too tight, too short, and left her feeling exposed. "Wear this," Bissy had said. "We're going to a special party. There will be wealthy men there, important men. This is where the real money is." Kayla had hesitated, but Bissy's firm expression left no room for argument. Now, she sat frozen on the bed, staring at her reflection in the mirror across the room. She barely recognized herself. The heavy makeup, the flashy jewelry, the designer heels, it was as if someone else was staring back at her. A knock at the door made her jump. Bissy peeked inside, smiling. "Are you ready?" Kayla swallowed hard. "Bissy, I don't think—" Bissy's smile faded. "Kayla, you said you wanted to make money. This is how it happens. No one gives out riches for free." Kayla's stomach twisted. But what exactly am I supposed to do? Bissy walked into the room and closed the door behind her. "Listen to me carefully," she said, her tone sharper now. "These men are powerful. They pay big money for girls like us. You make them happy, and they take care of you. That's how the world works." Kayla felt like the air had been knocked out of her lungs. "You mean—" "Yes," Bissy said bluntly. "That's the job." Tears burned in Kayla's eyes. "Bissy, I can't—" "You don't have a choice," Bissy interrupted. "You're already here. Who do you think paid for your flight, your visa, your clothes? You owe me, Kayla." Kayla's whole body trembled. She had been trapped, and there was no easy way out. Kayla was driven to the seaport, her hands trembling in her lap. The luxurious car felt more like a prison now. She had lost control. She no longer felt like herself. When she boarded the yacht, the weight of the situation finally crashed on her. She had been deceived. The men on the yacht wasted no time. One after the other, they used her, penetrated both holes, taking turns with no regard for her tears. They pooped on her body and asked her to lick it. She tried to fight, but their grip was too strong. Every time she cried out, they only laughed. They defiled her in every way possible, stripping her of every ounce of dignity she had left. But the horror didn't stop there. When she thought it was over, one of the men whispered something to another, and they brought out a dog. Kayla's stomach lurched. She shook her head violently. No, I can't do this. Please, don't do this to me." One of the wealthy men smirked. "If you refuse, you get nothing. Worse, we throw you into the sea." Kayla gasped. The ocean stretched endlessly around them. There was nowhere to run. The thought of drowning, of her body disappearing forever, sent a fresh wave of terror through her. Another man dangled a thick bundle of cash in front of her face. "Double pay, if you cooperate." Tears blurred her vision. She wanted to scream, to fight, but she had no strength left. Out of fear, she gave in. Her cries filled the night air as the men recorded her humiliation, their laughter piercing her soul. When it was finally over, she was tossed back into a waiting car and driven back to her hotel. Her hands shook as she picked up her phone. She dialed Bissy's number with trembling fingers. "Bissy, this is the worst day of my life," she sobbed. "I have never been humiliated like this. This money means nothing to me." Bissy sighed on the other end. "Kayla, I told you, the first time is always hard. You'll get used to it." Kayla hung up. She couldn't listen anymore. The weight of shame crushed her. She needed to leave. She needed to go home. When she returned to her country, her parents and siblings were shocked. She barely spoke. Days passed, and the guilt consumed her. Then came the final blow. She went for a medical test and was diagnosed with HIV. Kayla finally broke her silence. She told her family everything. Her mother wept, blaming herself. If only we had provided more, maybe she wouldn't have gone. But Kayla didn't want pity. She wanted to make sure no girl ever made the same mistake. She blocked Bissy's contact and began speaking out, warning young girls. Nothing comes free. Don't let anyone deceive you. There is no job waiting for you outside. Everything is a trade. Don't fall for it. It's all quid pro quo. Not everything that glitters is gold. Kayla was drawn to the illusion of wealth and luxury, But behind the glamour was a dark and painful reality. This serves as a warning that quick riches often come with devastating consequences. There is no such thing as easy money. If an offer sounds too good to be true, it likely is. Young people, especially women, must be cautious of enticing opportunities that demand no clear skills or work ethics. Kayla trusted BC because of their past friendship, but not everyone who appears successful has pure intentions. Choosing role models and friends wisely can prevent falling into dangerous traps. If Kayla's family had been financially stable, she might not have sought a way out so desperately. Families must strive to educate and support their children to prevent them from making desperate, life-altering decisions. Silence protects predators, but speaking out saves lives. By sharing her story, Kayla ensured that other young women wouldn't fall into the same trap. It's important to educate others about the dangers of human trafficking, sexual exploitation, and the hidden dangers behind glamorous lifestyles. True success comes from hard work. There is no shortcut to success. Real achievements come from persistence, education, and legitimate opportunities, not from deceptive promises that lead to suffering and regret.